Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Saturday, June 5th, 2021. I wanted to start this one off today with this here because there's been an increase in, quote, cyber attacks, and there's been an increase in a lot of different hacks, whether it be private or government or business or whoever they blame it on. There's just been a lot of that stuff going on, and I personally believe that it is leading up to, well, this. And I brought this up a couple times. That's my brother. Sorry about that. Brought that up a couple times, and I wanted to bring it up again because this is very important. And this is Homeland Security prep for EMP includes upcoming FEMA exercise, possible program office. This was written September 4th, 2020. Now, there's a drill coming up, an exercise for Homeland Security and their EMP scenarios, and we'll figure out all about that, but I'm going to go through here again. It's really starting to get to that point. It's really starting to get to that point where everything that's happening now in the news or just in everyday life, you can see it for what it is. You don't have to try to say, oh, I wonder what this, I wonder how this might fit the agenda, I wonder how that might fit the agenda. Like, you basically can just see something on a headline and they basically tell you what they're doing. Now, a new status report on the Department of Homeland Security's preparations to confront the threat of an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, attack and respond to a potentially catastrophic event says DHS is working to evaluate the need for a program management office to provide steady, consistent leadership in both the public and private sector engagements on risk reduction. The United States could face massive blackouts and disable technology from rare solar superstorms like the 1859 Carrington event, a nuclear weapon detonated at high altitude, sabotage of the electric grid with the use of small weapons or explosives against extra high voltage transformers, or a complex attack that includes a combination of cyber attack, sabotage, and nuclear attack. That paragraph right there to me is kind of odd. Like, or a complex attack that includes a combination of cyber attack, sabotage, and nuclear attack. Who is going to come up with that kind of attack on their own or even in a group with people? Who would have the resources to construct and carry out a cyber attack, sabotage, and nuclear attack? It can't be any one of us. We don't have any access to anything like that. A nationwide blackout could last a year or longer, gravely impacting the food and water supply, healthcare and sanitation, public safety, communications and transportation, bringing society to a standstill and sparking starvation and spread of disease. Now, in every single thing that I see that these guys put out like this, they always say, oh, the blackout could last a year or longer, or the blackout could be so bad that all the power gets knocked out, nothing's going to work for 6 months, I saw one time. And I'm thinking, how do they know? How do they know so specifically how long something like this would last? In October 2018, DHS released the strategy for protecting and preparing the homeland against threats from electromagnetic pulse and geomagnetic disturbance, which said that EMP-related intelligence gathering, sharing, and analysis at the time remained largely stovepiped within the federal government and across DHS, which leads to disparate understanding of potential electromagnetic threats and hazards, creating uncertainties about how DHS should address critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. And yeah, I remember in 2018 when they came out with that, and I thought that they were warning back then of a soon-to-be event. But as we now know, they had different plans. Did different plans for different things, and this one could, in fact, happen at this point in time. It would make a lot of sense. It really would. And they're doing the exercises at the World Economic Forum on cyber attacks and how it fits in with their Great Reset. And Klaus Schwab has been talking openly about, a cyber attack would forward this reset so quick and this and that. They're literally openly telling you that they are going to cut the power. They're going to cut the food. They're going to cut the water. Their plan is to squeeze us dry to where we have no choice left but to, make rash decisions and to go out and do something very foolish, to which they can control the narrative at that point in time. It's the way that they do it all the time. Every single event that they have ever staged, orchestrated, carried out, all of it. Let's continue. In March 2019, the White House unveiled an executive order coordinating national resilience to electromagnetic pulses, stating that the federal government will engage in risk-informed planning and prioritize research and development into EMP protection, response, recovery, and will promote collaboration and facilitate information sharing, including the sharing of threat and vulnerability assessments among executive departments and agencies and stakeholders. Stakeholder capitalism, that type of thing, which, again, we've been through many times, is a code for communism. Part of Homeland Security's broad focus under the executive order is to ensure timely EMP info gets to state and local governments with a duty to coordinate response to and recovery from the effects of EMPs on critical infrastructure, exercise EMP scenarios, maintain survivable means to provide necessary emergency information to the public during and after EMPs, and develop quadrennial risk assessments. My one question is, can you imagine what it would be like if the power went out for a whole year? Not even just the power going out, because that would imply just like a regular storm, power goes out, whatever. No, I mean like an EMP, to where your car doesn't work. The store's generators won't work because they too will be overloaded. That's the scariest part about EMPs. It don't matter if you have a generator. That generator is getting overloaded. That is the whole point of them. It's an electromagnetic pulse. It's not cutting the power to something. It's putting too much power into something. I'm trying to think of a good analogy or a good example of that, but I can't really think of one right now. The first thing that came to my mind was like a garden hose. If you had a garden hose and you just kept increasing the pressure, or if you shoved a lot of water in at one time, what's it going to do? It's going to blow. That's what an EMP is. It's just an overload of all circuits, anything computerized, electronic, all of it. Transformers will explode, poles will catch fire, houses will catch fire. Cars will just not work. If they're running, it's possible that they could catch fire. Just so much goes into an EMP. A lot of people don't really understand the gravity of the situation. They don't understand that EMPs are actually very, very terrifying. Very terrifying, and they can happen in a number of ways, as they told us up there. But everything that they're going through right now, with all this cyber attack stuff, starting with the whole the fuel line or gas line hack or something, and then there was a hack at a bank, and now there's hackers that are targeting something, and they lie every single day. We know that, and they always blame these faceless hackers, which no, they are the ones who are pulling this off. DHS was also directed to identify and list the national critical functions and associated priority critical infrastructure systems, networks, and assets, including space-based assets that, if disrupted, could reasonably result in catastrophic national or regional effects on public health or safety, economic security, or national security. A list that DHS will keep updated. DHS was told that it shall review test data identifying any gaps in such data regarding the effects of EMPs on critical infrastructure systems, networks, and assets within 6 months after that. DHS, in coordination with other agencies, was expected to develop an integrated cross-sector plan to address the identified gaps. The August status report released Thursday said the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, in coordination with Science Technology Directorate and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has taken key actions to address known EMP-related vulnerabilities to critical infrastructure. Quote, as the nation's risk advisor, one of CISA's priorities is mitigating threats associated with EMPs, said CISA Director Chris Krebs. Over the past year, we have worked with interagency and industry partners to identify the footprint and effects of EMP threats across our national critical functions, and are developing sustainable, efficient, and cost-effective approaches to improving the nation's resilience to EMPs. Again, lies. The document said that DHS initial efforts have focused on risk management in the communications and energy sectors. The complexity of this task required the development of new models and concepts for prioritization. Development of these risk management concepts and models is ongoing, the report states. However, the models have matured to a point that enables prioritization of a limited set of systems, networks, and assets for EMP vulnerability assessments and mitigation efforts. While the development of these models took longer than initially envisioned, additional time was needed to validate the concepts and ensure the efficient application of resources to progress to subsequent tasks within the EO. And the EO is, I think it's up here somewhere. I'm not sure. CISA's 55 national critical functions form the basis for analyzing what could be at risk from an EMP event. In addition to traditional models for determining critically, DHS, in partnership with the Federal Emergency Management, Federal Interagency, I just started reading FEMA out of nowhere. My mind does that. I'll go to read a word and I'll think it's another word, but it's not. I do it all the time. Let's start over. In addition to traditional models for determining critically, DHS, in partnership with the Federal Interagency, is assessing how the widespread simultaneous effects of an EMP would affect these criticality models. The report continues. DHS is developing new concepts and approaches to evaluate how simultaneous common component failures could cause cascading failures across critical infrastructures, as well as hinder response and recovery operations due to lack of repair parts and personnel. Well, yeah, there's no way they'd be able to keep up with that. And they want to try to control not the narrative. They want to try to control like the effects of the EMP, but they won't be able to do that. It's not humanly possible because everything's interconnected. And the way electricity goes, a natural metal is a natural conductor. So anything metal that is touching any little tiny, okay, for instance, let's say an EMP goes off, and let's say at the same time I have a metal pole in my hand, I'm touching a wire, and I'm touching a fence with the other metal pole. Dumb, huge, stupid move to do, of course, right. But when that EMP goes off, I am now a conductor, and I am now getting shocked, and the fence is now conducted and now electrified. So all these things are interconnected, so everything will go at one time. It won't just be like, oh, this city's out right now, and then this city will be out tomorrow, and no. Everything is interconnected, so will all be affected at one time. DHS said it's building EMP considerations into internal continuity and mission assurance plans and associated resourcing, and FEMA has designed and built EMP-hardened communications facilities to support continuity of preparation and response directives from the federal government to the public. Here's where it gets interesting. FEMA is also developing an interagency EMP exercise in fiscal year 2021 to address the unique widespread cross-sector effects of EMP event and challenge planning assumptions used by federal planners when considering EMP actions. Okay, so, DHS, the Energy Department, and Nuclear Regulatory Commission began a collaboration in March to validate the continued operation of key safety measures of nuclear power plants in post-EMP environment. Expected completion is in late 2021. So, you see a convergence here with like all these events going on, and then we're in the middle of 2021 right now, of course, because it's now June, the 6th month. So, right smack dab in the middle. This exercise is coming up here in a couple months, I believe. And all this stuff's going on right beforehand. And this was planned out a while ago, set in stone a while ago. But all of a sudden, all these cyber attacks, all this going on right now is, happening at a very high rate. Every other day we hear about a cyber attack. They're building up for this. And this will be part of their reset. Of course. Because imagine the chaos. If the power goes out for 20 minutes and people expect it to come back on within 24 hours even, people still go insane. Now imagine everything just doesn't work, including your car and everything else, but you don't have any communications and you can't see when it will come back on. You don't know when it'll come back on. Imagine how people are going to act. The first thing they're going to do is people are going to try to go to stores and stuff and get everything they can out of the store. And I'm telling you right now, do not do that. Don't ever do that. Because those people that are going to be raiding the stores and stuff, people that are panicking, they're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. They're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Because they're going to be out there panicking and being insane. And they're going to foresee people going to the stores and raiding them. And they're probably going to have troops or whoever waiting there for you to go there and try to do all that. Stupid. Sorry, guys. The stupid Zippo's not working out. There we go. Sorry about that. Normally would pause, but I'm too lazy. But yeah. Don't ever do that. That's why we're supposed to have preps beforehand, so when something like this does happen, we can be like, okay, we recognize it, we know what's going on, let's go ahead and institute our plan. As funding becomes available, S&T in coordination with CISA will conduct vulnerability testing of prioritized critical infrastructure components, as well as validation testing of potentially applicable mitigation options for those components in order to better inform critical infrastructure owners and operators on what actions they can take to protect their systems, the report notes. I don't want to spend too much time on this, so I'm just going to kind of go through here. Okay, so CISA is developing resilient power guidelines to be used in support EMP mitigation planning, and Homeland Security is partnering with other federal departments and agencies, state, local, and tribal, and territorial entities, as well as private sector, to field test EMP mitigation and protection technologies. So, all this stuff is starting to happen, like right now. They're getting all of it, they're setting it all up. Don't be surprised if when this exercise starts, that it doesn't go live. How many times have one of their exercises gone live? We're still currently in the middle of a live exercise, according to former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, I believe he was. Now look at this. You also got to think, this New World Order, they want a world where the United States is not a thing. Think about this next paragraph. Such an attack would give North Korea and countries that have only a small number of nuclear weapons the ability to cause widespread, long-lasting damage to critical national infrastructures of the United States itself, as a viable country and to the survival of a majority of its population, said the Commission's July 2017 Chairman's Report, which recommended that implementation of cybersecurity for the electric grid and other critical infrastructures include EMP protection, since all-out cyber warfare as planned by Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran includes nuclear EMP attack, and integrating EMP and cyber protection will be both the least expensive and most technically sound approach. And that is the end of that. Oh, look, this has 3 visits today, this one that I just read to you guys. So, yes, drill coming up on EMP scenario. Don't be surprised if it goes live. Moving on. Okay, I wanted to bring this one up, of course. And I got a couple articles like this with the whole smart cities, transhumanism, nanotechnology type of thing. So hopefully this video does not get taken down, as if it's up still right now, 21 minutes in, might have a good chance. But last time my video was down in like 6 hours, but I've also had them up before where they're up for 2 minutes. So it's really hard to tell like when there will be a safe zone. Also, I got a video taken down that was over a month old, so yeah, you really can't tell when, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I got like 3 other accounts in an Odysee now, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Oh, also, while I'm remembering, I do plan on making a non-YouTube friendly video to put on Odysee. I accidentally overwrote the one with the pharmakia and everything on the whole cure. I think I might do another one of those at some point in time, but I am going to be making an Odysee video because there's a lot of stuff that I want to say that I don't feel like censoring myself, and I have a lot of things that did not make it into the cut of my videos on YouTube, but they would for sure be good for Odysee. Oh yes. So I will be doing that at some point in time. I will let everybody know when that is a thing. Okay, so this is called Smart Cities, Digital Prisons of the Great Reset. And this was like 2 months ago. This was written April 7th. The push for a smart city future is being engineered by the international organizations like the World Economic Forum, the architects of the Great Reset. This is part 2 of our Smart Cities investigation. Please read part 1, and I went through part 1 already, but we'll go through that another time. It's basically just, well, what it says here. Understanding the dangers of innovation zones in smart cities. It's just all the dangers about it, but this one is more comprehensive, the part 2, so I brought the part 2 in here for the sake of this video. The public is being driven toward a smart city future, which we are told will end systematic racism, overcrowding, pollution, and crime. As covered in part 1 of this investigation, there are legitimate concerns with the smart city movement. Without proper protections, this vision will spell the end of privacy, property ownership, and freedom of movement. This is the dream of the World Economic Forum and their partners at the United Nations. Of course, in a future where all towns and cities are outfitted with latest smart tech, fighting to maintain privacy and freedom of movement is crucial. It's also important to understand the innovation zones, special economic zones, and smart cities in the context of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset vision. How do these emerging technologies and concepts play a role in fomenting the centralized authoritarian vision imagined by the talking heads at the World Economic Forum? Sorry, I had to make sure I was still recording. I never know when this thing's gonna mess up. The Great Reset, Agenda 2030, and Smart Cities. Smart City is promoted as an urban environment which uses data and emerging technologies to improve the quality of life for citizens, share information with the public, drive economic growth, and build a more inclusive society. Well, that all sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds wonderful. This city would involve the use of technologies such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and drones to improve citizens' lives and solve the challenges of today while preparing to address those of tomorrow. The World Economic Forum The architects of the Great Reset and a host of other international public-private partnerships have been promoting the concept as a solution for fighting climate change for years. The situation, or operation, which is what they call it here, the operation has helped further cement this idea that our cities and infrastructure are unsustainable, and thus we must upgrade to smart cities. Yes, just like our old order is unsustainable, and we must upgrade to our new order with a new government for the whole world. Give me a break. In June 2019, the World Economic Forum announced that they were collaborating with the leadership of the G20 to lead, quote, new global effort to establish universal norms and guidelines for implementation of smart city technology. The move brought the World Economic Forum into the fold of global organizations focused on bringing the smart city vision to life. The Global Smart Cities Alliance, GSCA, was fomented to, quote, establish global standards for data collection and use, foster greater transparency and public trust, and promote best practices in smart city governance. The WEF and Smart Cities Alliance described the need for smart city technology as follows, quote, to support their booming urban populations, many cities have come to rely on the Internet of Things, that is, the world's ever-expanding network of connected devices, to collect, share, and analyze real-time data on urban environments. Data gathered using IoT technologies is helping these smart cities to combat crime, reduce pollution, decrease traffic congestion, improve disaster preparedness, and more. However, it's also raising growing concerns about privacy, security, and other risks. Without proper governance, these smart city technologies pose significant challenges that can outweigh their benefits. But despite the growing number of smart cities around the world, no global framework exists for regulating how data should be collected in public spaces such as traffic cameras or Wi-Fi hotspots and subsequently used. Yeah. So they're trying to say that, oh, we don't have proper governance. So we have all this new technology, all these new smart cities, but we don't have an upgraded government to cope with that, to lead us into that. So we need to scrap the old and bring in the new. And that's one of the ways they're going to cement this into the minds of the populace, by saying that there's a need for it. Necessity is always what the tyrant uses, the excuse they use to seize power and consolidate power. Necessity. The GSCA and WEF are now primed to be the lead organizations to establish a global framework for smart city governance. Additionally, in November 2020, World Economic Forum selected 36 cities to pioneer a new global policy roadmap for smart cities developed by the G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance. The cities are meant to be the models for the smart city future. These cities will be used as the testing grounds for WEF and 2020 roadmap. These so-called pioneer cities include Barcelona, Spain, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, London, United Kingdom, Mexico City, Mexico, San Jose, United States. So don't think because we live over here in America that we're untouched, because you're lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself. Crazy. Most recently, the World Economic Forum launched a platform called Shaping the Future of the Internet of Things and Urban Transformation. The title alone should give it away. The title alone should give it away. Shaping the Future of the Internet of Things and Urban Transformation. To help transform the spaces in which we live, work, and play to enable a more sustainable, resilient, and prosperous future for all. The World Economic Forum is working with more than 100 global partners to implement the platform's key initiatives, which include feature of the connected world focused on the Internet of Things, Future of real estate, discussing transitioning the real estate industry, and future of cities, which will discuss the responsible and ethical use of smart city technologies with partners representing more than 200,000 cities and local governments. Clearly, the World Economic Forum is a major proponent of the push towards smart cities, though their partnership initiatives and publications, the World Economic Forum is playing an outsized role in promoting the technological vision for urban areas. However, upon closer examination, it becomes clear that WEF is simply parroting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The UN Sustainable Development Goal number 11. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are a collection of 17 interlinked goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The SDGs were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly with the intention of achieving them by the year 2030. The SDGs were a part of a larger resolution known as the 2030 Agenda or Agenda 2030. And remember that's what this all is. Don't let anybody ever tell you that this is not Agenda 21. Everything you can go and find in Agenda 21, even if you buy it and read the first one from 92, the Millennium Development Goals. Everything is going as planned for these people. Literally. The only thing they took into account that would stand in their way were Americans. They were afraid Americans were going to stand up and we were going to, not want this to happen. And they expected a lot of people to stand up, but guess what? Nobody stood up. Why is that? Why? Care to venture a guess? Man. The language of the World Economic Forum and Global Smart Cities Alliance clearly mirrors the language of the Sustainable Development Goals in Agenda 2030. For example, the 11th SDG is make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Goal number 11 targets include reducing the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities and providing universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces by 2030. That also means no firearms. In their eyes, which most people would see a safe environment as an environment with a firearm. I personally feel safe in my own home because I can defend myself and my wife. But most people would see that as unsafe just because it's there. The United Nations has also launched the United for Smart Sustainable Cities U4SSC initiative to help achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 11. According to their website, U4SSC serves as a global platform to advocate for public policy to encourage the use of information and communication technologies to facilitate and ease the transition to smart, sustainable cities. Coincidentally, the fifth meeting of the U4SSC initiative took place October 9, 2020, about 1 week before the World Economic Forum was involved in the Event 201 Situation Simulation exercise. Oh yes. The United Nations is not alone in leading the charge for smart cities. To help achieve UN SDGs, there are also non-governmental organizations involved in the process. These include 100 Resilient Cities Network. Wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. Developed by the Rockefeller Foundation to help cities around the world become more resilient to physical, social, and economic shocks. And the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies with former mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg, as president of the board. Man, that guy's involved in everything. He's involved in every town for gun safety, involved in this. Guy's involved in all kind of stuff. How smart city propaganda spreads on the local level. The push for smart city technology and programs is not exclusively the activity of international governments and NGOs. The spread of smart city propaganda also happens via local governing bodies, which help implement the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In this way, local officials pass resolutions and form committees, which are aimed at implementing Agenda 2030 Great Reset goals under the guise of beautifying their respective cities and towns. One prime example is Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Turner is a great example of individual using their position of power to emulate the UN SDGs. In May 2018, Turner established a Smart City Advisory Council to help transition Houston to the city of the future while working to reduce climate change. Quote, "The age of technology is here and we cannot afford to sit idle," Turner said at the time. Quote, "We must leap, not stroll into the future. The Advisory Council will set the stage for Houston to become the smart city of the world." The smart city of the world. What a name. What a name. What a name. This is out of control. Literally out of control. Under Turner's mayorship, Houston was also partnered with the tech giant Microsoft as part of the Microsoft Innovation Alliance initiative. Turner also partnered with Verizon Incorporated to make Houston the site of the first 5G implementation in the United States. Turner's relationship with Verizon and the wireless industry are so great that the Cellular Telephone and Internet Association lobbying group presented him the 2018 5G Wireless Champion Award for removing barriers to the development of next-generation wireless infrastructure. The CTIA stated that, quote, "Under Mayor Turner's leadership, Houston has streamlined the permitting process by not requiring a license or attachment agreement for new poles or small cells and completes review ahead of deadlines." So basically, they didn't require a license or agreement for any new poles or small cells or anything that has to do with, quote, upgrading your city to the city of the future. Very nice. Kind of reminds me of another thing going on right now with the, the cure, right? Really better watch what I say. Get this video taken down. I won't be too happy. Oh well. Mayor Turner has also sought to use situation as a promotion for Houston's Smart City for Resilience initiatives. Forbes notes that Houston is, quote, using real-time data and digital contact tracing to identify community spread and more rapidly develop policies. Cities also partner with tech firm Intel for a smart water program that uses genetic markers to understand community spread. Smart water program. Alright. In January, the climate mayors announced Turner as the next chair of the nationwide coalition. In this role, Turner will help catalyze climate-forward actions taken at the local level, provide an example of climate action for leaders at all levels of government. Turner is also the vice chair of the National Climate Action Agenda. National Climate Action Agenda. Man. A member of the Global Covenant for Mayors for Climate and Energy. Why is that even a thing? Global Covenant for Mayors for Climate and Energy. And as of October 2020, the chairman of the Resilient Cities Network. So if you live in Houston, this guy. Or if you live in any city, guarantee if you look up your city and you type Agenda 21 next to it, or Agenda for the 21st Century, or Sustainable Development Goals, yeah. Oh man, there's just so much going on right now. I can't even keep up. I can't focus on one thing and then focus on this thing and try to lead this to its logical conclusion or follow my thoughts out to this. There's just so much happening. Man. But what I was saying is that if you go and look up your city or town, type in Agenda 21 or whatever, it's going to come up. One of the core funders of the Resilient Cities Network is the Rockefeller Foundation, the same organization who founded the 100RC Network. That's the 100 Resilient Cities Network. In fact, as part of 100 Resilient Cities, the Rockefeller Foundation helps partner cities to establish chief resilience officers to implement the goals of the organization. The Rockefeller Foundation is intertwined with the Gates Foundation as part of the operation. They're also working with the World Economic Forum on the Common Pass, the passport. Oh, the commune pass. I mean Common Pass. Communist pass? Very similar, those two words. Okay, let's go down through here a little bit. Sustainability for equity or control. At first glance, there's a tendency to solely acknowledge the benefits of the schemes proposed by these organizations. The World Economic Forum, Global Smart Cities Alliance, United Nations 100RC, and Mayor Turner all claim that the smart city technology will help usher in an era of sustainable and inclusive urban environments. They say that the IoT, 5G, and smart cities are needed to bring this utopian future. And it's always a utopian future, right? They always want to get that set up. Well, it'll be a utopia for them. But, okay. These organizations and the SDGs they seek to implement often speak of equity and sound rather innocuous to the casual reader. After all, creating more bike lanes and green spaces for people to relax outdoors sounds wonderful. Until you realize the World Economic Forum Agenda 2030 Great Reset agenda involves limiting who can drive and who can fly. The reality is the UN and WEF are only paying lip service to protecting privacy and liberty. Oh, they don't care about any of that. They don't care about privacy or freedom. These are the people that are taking your freedom. Absolutely. Okay, let me keep going through here because I got some more stuff I want to show you guys. In truth, the push for smart cities, UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the Great Reset is based in a deeper agenda to monitor, control, and direct all life on the plane using technology. The true agenda of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations is to establish a global technocratic state where alleged experts and technologists make decisions for the vast majority of people in the name of saving the environment. Imagine that. All of a sudden now you're being controlled and being told what to do and you're being hammered on, all in the name to protect the place in which you live. Oh, you want to go step on that grass where that sign says keep off, 10 years in prison. The only thing that stands in the way of the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset is the current mass awakening of free humans around the world. Millions of people have begun to question the true purpose behind the situation, lockdowns and mandates. Millions of people are now seeking to educate themselves and build a better world outside of the hands of the predator class. People are rejecting the new normal and embracing the greater reset. I hope that that's true, but most people that wake up, they fall into the net that is QAnon. So, yeah, let's move on. I don't know if this one will get this video taken down, but I'm going to go ahead and run it anyway because, well, it needs to be said. And before I start reading this, I do not take an official position on this. Wink, wink. I am only stating this for educational purposes. Nothing that I say should be misconstrued in any way to mean that I am giving out medical advice. I am not. This is for educational and information purposes. And yeah, so there's that. Nanochips and smart dust, dangerous new face of human microchipping agenda. And people always say, oh, microchipping and stuff, they're too big to fit inside of needles and you can't get nothing like that. And I tell them, it's nanotechnology. I had people tell me before that nanotechnology is not even real. You believe that? That's crazy. They've been talking about nanotechnology for a long time. They were talking about nanotechnology on sci-fi shows in the 60s. But look at this. These are made by Hitachi. They measure about 15 times 0.15 by 15 millimeter. So it's 0.15 by 0.15 millimeter. Each have GPS capabilities, sometimes called smart dust, as they can be sprayed on us and absorbed or taken foods and drinks and even ingested. Nanochips and smart dust are the new technological means for the advancement of the human microchipping agenda. Due to their incredibly tiny size, both nanochips and smart dust have the capacity to infiltrate the human body, become lodged within, and begin to set up synthetic network on the inside, which can be remotely controlled from the outside. Needless to say, this has grave freedom, privacy, and health implications because it means the New World Order would be moving from controlling the outside world, environment, society, to controlling the inside world, your body. This article explores what the advent of nanochips and smart dust could mean for you. Different forms of control. Humanity's history is filled with examples of societies where the people were sharply divided into two categories, rulers and slaves. In the distant past, the slaves have usually been kept in place because the rulers had access to and control over the resources such as money, food, water, weapons, or other necessities of life. So, control of the environment. In our more recent history, control was implemented not only by monopolizing resources, but also via propaganda, control of the mind. There's a lot of mind control going on right now. A whole lot. Too much. This has manifested itself in many ways. The caste system in India, you must remain in your position on the hierarchical ladder for life. Excuse me. The royal bloodlines in Rome, the Middle East, and Europe, who claimed an inherent and divine right to rule. Centralization of power in Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia during the 1930s, where a single autocrat or small committee decided the fate of millions. And finally, in the West, especially in the U.S., with the advent of specialized PR and mind control techniques that were refined by the CIA. Projects like MKUltra gave the NWO controllers unheard of power to remotely and subconsciously influence people without them ever knowing, including the ability to create sex slaves and sleeper assassins. That's the truth. Also, something that we have to take into consideration. Project MKUltra was at its height 60 plus years ago, and things have moved on a lot since then. We're now entering an era where technological advancements are giving the NWO conspirators influence over a new realm, control of the emotions, or more accurately, control over the entire mind-emotion nexus. In the human body, I'm talking about microchips, tiny electronic devices which can be embedded under your skin and which receive and transmit information. Although microchips have been around a while, they are now outdated. What we are facing is something much tinier than a microchip, and therefore more of a threat. Nanochips and smart dust. Literally, this stuff, you can put it in your hand and you can blow it like dust. And I read before that each particle or each little thing of dust can hold up to 32 gigabytes of information. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've read before. If somebody wants to verify that for me, I would really appreciate that. How much information can a nanochip or smart dust hold? Because that's really important too. Okay, so what is a nanochip? The word nano is 3 orders of magnitude smaller than micro. Nano means 1/billionth, while micro means 1/millionth. While microchips are about the size of a grain of rice and measured in millimeters, nanochips are completely invisible to the human eye. Some of the nanochips are far smaller than human hair. The, whatever that is, U chip, that is 0.4 by 0.4 millimeters in 2015. IBM announced that they had developed functional nanochips measuring just 7 nanometers, 7 billionths of 1 meter. In comparison, a strand of human DNA is about 2.5 nanometers. The diameter of a single red blood cell is about 7,500 nanometers. These nanochips power themselves from their environment, They don't need batteries and have a 100-year lifespan. Gee, you mean like a human being? Man. They are slated to be rolled out first on products so the corporatocracy can have total knowledge of consumer behavior in real time before they can be used inside people's bodies. Did you know that nerve cells grow onto and meld with the chip? I believe that. That's what your body does. It attacks foreign things and it molds onto them and destroys them. In this leaked project video, the presenter claims that the New World Order aimed to introduce 100 trillion nanochips into the world so that literally every single thing in the world is tagged, including you. He includes many patents and other documents as proof of this agenda. He singles out the company HP, which is, of course, Hewlett-Packard computer people, as being the executor of the plan to construct a central nervous system for the Earth, linking all resources and people in real time. What is smart dust? You may already be familiar with the SMART agenda, or better put, the SMART deception. For those new to this, the SMART agenda is to create a giant electromagnetic grid or network that encompasses the entire Earth. Everything that moves is to be made or injected with some kind of sensor to mote that connects it to the grid, including household products, appliances, food, drink items, animals, plants, and humans too. Smart dust is another name for these motes, which will act as mini computers broadcasting and receiving. They are small wireless micro-electromechanical sensors, MEMS. As of 2013, a mote was about the size of a grain of rice, but with technology advancing all the time, these will keep on reducing in size. Motes can be adjusted through food as well as be discussed below. The SMART agenda is basically synonymous with the UN Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030, and the smart grid is synonymous with the Internet of Things, which also is going to use the new 5G network to achieve its desired saturation levels. While this kind of technology can be used for the benefit of mankind, like many things today, it has been weaponized. And that's the part that gets me the most. All of this stuff could be used to improve our lives drastically. Drastically, all of this stuff can be used to improve our lives. But you know what? It's not the agenda. The agenda is to destroy our lives. Same thing as like social media sites and whatnot. Technology is neutral. Same as like a gun or anything else. It's neutral until you get put somebody behind it. Literally just a tool. Like a gun is neutral, and if you put somebody with a good heart and a good, sound, level-headed person, well, like myself, I am a danger to nobody. My gun would only ever be used for defense of life, whether it be mine or somebody else's. That's the only way it would ever even be used. Same things like social media sites. All of that is neutral. You can get on there and use social media sites for, just your own little group of friends, and you can, be respectful and all that, and bring some kind of class to the internet. But what happened? They flooded it with pornography and drugs and making it look cool to drink and do all this stuff. And now, literally a weapon to mold people's minds into ultimately accepting this New World government. So, same as this. These things are neutral. They can be used for good or bad. It just so happens that they're being used for bad. Unfortunate as it is, because this technology really could make life so much easier and better for every single person in the entire world. We could have things that you could just think of, and something will bring it to you, or automatically it'll be delivered to your house based on your thoughts. But, things that are being used for bad, I would never, even in a million years, even if it wasn't like this, I wouldn't get anything embedded into my skin or nothing like that. But these things could be used in a good way, but they're not, which is terrible. Okay, the existence of smart dust forms a massive threat against the sovereignty of every human being alive. What we are up against is nothing less than an attempted technological possession of humanity. Delivery systems for nanochips and smart dust. In a fundamental way, these, GMOs, bioengineered food, and geoengineering chemtrails are all connected as they are delivery systems, whereby this miniature technology of nanochips and smart dust is planned to be inserted into our bodies. Some chemtrails contain smart dust motes, which readily infiltrate the body, communicate with other motes in your body, set up their own network, and which can unfortunately be remotely controlled. Even as you are fastidious about what you eat and what you expose yourself to, it is difficult to see how you can avoid breathing in a mote of smart dust that was dropped on you by plain spraying chemtrails. With nanochips and motes inside your body, the NWO criminals can combine the Internet of Things smart grid with brain mapping and other technological information in their attempt to pull off their ultimate endgame, to remotely influence and control an entire population by overriding and programming the thoughts, feelings, and actions of the masses. Think about that. Total control over everything you do, say, think, or breathe. The rabbit hole definitely does not stop at nanochips and smart dust. An entire new category of life forms are being forged via synthetic biology. Morgellons fibers are self-aware, self-replicating, and are likely assisting the dark agenda remotely to control thoughts, feelings, and bodily functions of the entire population. This will be explored in other articles. New technology always being pushed as being cool, efficient, and convenient. Yeah, everything. Everything. Naturally, the full scope and goal of this agenda will not be revealed to the public as the technology is rolled out. Instead, we will continue to be told how wonderful, cool, trendy, and efficient it all is. Note especially how all of this will be promoted under the banner of speed and convenience, while people unwittingly flush their freedom, health, and privacy down the toilet. Yes, being surrounded by fields of man-made EM, electromagnetic radiation everywhere you go will be disastrous for your health too. The nanochips will also be pushed using peer pressure, encouraging people to get it in the name of social conformity. Like many governmental programs, the chips may initially be voluntarily before they become mandatory. There's already a segment of society that is willingly chipping itself using tattoo ink. Recently, a company in Wisconsin, 3 Square Market, or 32M, introduced such an internal system and began encouraging its employees to get chipped. Although it was not mandatory, reportedly about half of them out of 41 out of 85 stepped forward and chose to get chipped. I remember that. That's terrifying. And it's also been kind of concerning because at my work right now, they are setting up a V clinic for anybody who might want to get the cure. So I'm sure eventually that's going to go from that into you can't work here anymore unless you get this, which I see it heading there. Every single day of my life I walk into that building and I'm like, this might be the day. Because one day they're just going to stand right there and they're just going to tell all of us, you can't come back to work until you get a cure. And a bunch of people at my work also already got the cure as well, so I've been monitoring them. Some people are really, really sick. Really sick. And they had it less than a month. Now imagine 6 months to a year down the road after getting that thing. Who knows? Okay, but this basically is how to remove a chip. Understand the true danger of the nanochip and smart technology. Make sure you never acquiesce to getting chipped, no matter what reason you're given. Doing so is tantamount to opening yourself to being remotely controlled without your knowledge. Thirdly, if you do discover a chip inside your body, get it removed. There are various ways to do. Some people crudely cut the chips out if they're large enough, i.e. microchip instead of nanochip. Other people claim you can use magnets such as neodymium magnets to render the nanochips useless. Hopefully there will be intelligent inventors who step forward with new technologies that we can use to deactivate, disable, and remove the nanochips inside of our bodies. Final thoughts. The human microchipping agenda is really the same thing as the transhumanist agenda, to turn mankind into machine, which will ultimately mean becoming not superhuman but subhuman. We need to be very careful and think critically as we go forward into a world of fantastic technology. Like the surgeon's knife, it can heal or it can kill. Given everything we know, it would be naive to believe that nanochips will be only used for good. If we're not aware, this technology will be used by the power hungry to enslave us by tricking us with the promises of utopia. Nanobots are already being used in Western medicine for all sorts of diseases. Once smart grid is established, how will you avoid being monitored, tracked, and influenced 24/7 every day of the year? No matter how good a technology becomes, it can never replace the spirit of consciousness inside of you, which is your true power. So, a little bit about nanochips and smart dust. Maybe enough to get this video taken down, but we'll see about that. Okay, here is the last one that I got for you guys today. I did not know that we were already 1 hour and 1 minute into the video, which is pretty crazy. So I will go ahead and start reading this one. I had actually about 3 more for you guys, but I'm sure somewhere I rambled because I'm the rambling man. So I always do that to myself. This is called the Anti-Human Agenda of the New World Order, accelerated by Operation Situation. That's what we'll call it. Okay, the story. Situation: scam restrictions while freedom denying and life destroying are indicative of a deeper agenda. The implications: all the dehumanizing aspects of the situation and the New World Order are reflective of the anti-human agenda, which has picked up speed as it attempts to change the essence of humanity forever. The anti-human agenda. Here we go. The anti-human agenda that underpins the NWO is moving sharply into view with the advent of Operation Situation. And it's experimental, nano-infused. You can see that. This video is going to get taken down, so you might want to download it. Underneath all the chaos is a coldly calculated and chilling plan, which is entirely anti-human agenda. I've alluded to this agenda before in previous articles, such as in 2015, Everything is Fake, in 2016, Synthetic Agenda, The Sordid Heart of the New World Order. Basically, blah, blah, blah. Just about this guy. Here we go. Bill Gates leading the charge. Bill Gates has not only become the consummate NWO frontman, but also has become a villain of cartoon-like proportions, with his finger in seemingly every pie. Gates either invests in, funds, or directly controls GMO crops, GMO animals, synthetic food, eugenics-driven research on fertility, testicle-smashing contraceptives. Ugh. Why did I have to use that terminology? Blah. Nope. Chemtrails, geoengineering, cures, the media, man-made climate change propaganda, simulations, like Event 201, organizations modeling situations like the Imperial College and IHME, which is the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, large international health organizations like the WHO, Gavi, and CEPI, and much, much more. All the while buying up more farmland in the U.S. than any other person. Gates' most recent wacky idea is to combine the GM mosquitoes and cures to produce flying syringes. Genetically modified mosquitoes that wouldn't inject you. That's terrifying. His hypocrisy is staggering when you consider how he flies around the world in private jets while lecturing people on their carbon footprint, just as many other NWO conspirators do. Gates even had the audacity recently to show off his love of beef burgers, while telling everyone that they're going to have to eat synthetic lab-made meat soon instead. Meanwhile, what do you think Gates is going to do with all that farmland? Well, all these people are hypocrites, and their hypocrisy is crazy. And it shows every single day that they speak. But They're going to live how they live, and these rules are only for us. Well, those of us who are left. Well, I should say those of you who are left. I won't be around for any of this. Okay, all these things that Gates is touching are involved in one way or another with the replacement of the real with the fake. Instead of real food, he promotes fake food. Instead of real health, he promotes fake health. Or more simply, disease. Instead of real information, he promotes fake information or simply propaganda. Instead of real science, he promotes the fake science of AGW or man-made climate change. Instead of life-affirming research on improving fertility, he promotes life-destroying research to increase infertility. Oh, yes. Okay, a telling reflection of the anti-human agenda can be seen in the incessant demonization of carbon. Humanity is a carbon-based life form. Often, computers are called silicon-based life forms. I have seen man versus machine chess matches framed as carbon versus silicon. Tournaments, carbon is central to our identity, yet being targeted and maligned. Why? The article, UN's Anti-Human Push to Decarbonize the World, discusses how those running the climate change cult and pushing the unscientific idea of AGW are demonizing all carbon, not just carbon dioxide or CO2, by targeting all carbon pollution and pushing for a world where no such carbon pollution exists. The article reports of UN head Antonio Guterres in his new phrase, quote, the head of the United Nations is calling on countries to end what he calls a war on nature and instead embrace a future without carbon pollution, triggering global warming. As an extreme year for hurricanes, wildfires, and heat waves comes to an end, the head of the United Nations challenged world leaders to make 2021 the year that humanity ends its war on nature and commits to a future free of planet-warming carbon pollution. So, 2021, that's where we are now. They're really accelerating all this stuff. They're really accelerating everything. The UN's irrational war on carbon is a war against humanity itself, however. If depopulation is the ultimate goal, then it makes perfect sense, because the human body is 12% carbon. The carbon cycle in food production and human nutrition requires CO2, and abundantly so. I look at it also as doublespeak. As in, they say we need to get carbon to net zero, right? Net zero carbon future. Well, what do we breathe out? How do you get one of these numbers pretty close to zero? Remember Bill Gates talking about that? It is absurd to declare war on an element of the periodic table, especially one such as abundant and essential as carbon. Unless seen from the perspective of the anti-human agenda, carbon dioxide is far from being an enemy. It's essential to all plant life. It is their equivalent of oxygen, and indeed, the more CO2 we have, the greener the planet becomes, which results in more benefits for us. There are many scientists spreading this information, such as Dr. William Happer, professor of physics at Princeton University. Happer has exposed the arguments of the climate change alarmists, the carbon cult, as he calls them. We need to increase the CO2 level on the plane, not decrease it. Happer explains why carbon pollution is the principal myth which underlies the alarmist arguments. Data from millions of years shows the climate has always been changing, either warming or cooling. The more CO2 you inject into a closed area with plants, e.g. a greenhouse, the more plants grow. Plants love CO2 and thrive on it. As population grows, CO2 increases, and generating a greener planet and more food. It's amazing and sustainable system if we just let it be rather than tampering with it. And yeah, no matter what you believe about the earth, how old it is, what the shape of it, one thing that we all have to agree on is that there's more than enough for everybody. There's more than enough room, there's more than enough food, there's more than enough everything. And yes, the more people there are, the more the earth will compensate for that by generating more food, like in the form of plants that are vegetables or fruits, or God has a way of making it work out for everybody. God has a way of making sure that everybody gets exactly what they need. Everybody and everything, actually, not just everyone. The sun is also being demonized. It's not just carbon that's being targeted. Other aspects of the natural world, such as the sun itself, are also being demonized. Yes, excessive exposure to the sun rays can be harmful, especially in tropical regions. However, a deliberate fear of the sun is being engendered in people. The sun is blamed for causing cancer and global warming. One of Gates' crazy geoengineering experiments involved attempting to block the sun's rays. The truth is, the human skin turns sunlight into vitamin D via synthesis from cholesterol. Not coincidentally, cholesterol, despite being an essential fatty nutrient of the human body, has also been demonized for decades. I covered the insane propaganda against cholesterol in this 2015 article, where I pointed out that it's a fat molecule synthesized by all animals because it's a crucial structural component of our cells. Cholesterol helps with respiratory and gastrointestinal problems, creates vitamin D as part of healing mechanism of our body. Because some of us are fooled into fearing the sun, we encourage to use cancer-causing chemicals, sunscreen, on our skin. Because some of us are fooled into fearing cholesterol, we are encouraged to use toxic statins. Either way, the result's the same: disease, pain, even premature death that stems from turning our back on the real and embracing the fake. Transhumanism. This anti-human agenda seeks to change the human body from the inside out. It's the driving force behind transhumanism, the merging of man with machine to make human 2.0. An allegedly enhanced superhuman with special abilities, but really a subhuman that's been cut off from its natural power. A 2015 scientific study found carbon nanotubes, tiny tubes measured in nanometers, in the lungs of every single person tested. These nanotubes can be readily used as biosensors, tracking you from the inside. A 2017 scientific study entitled New Quality Control Investigations on Cures, Micro, and Nano Contamination found that cures were already highly contaminated or saturated with nanoparticles. Then there are all the particles that have rained down due to chemtrail spraying for decades now, which have surely entered the lungs of many, if not almost all people on the earth. It would appear that humanity has already been infiltrated to some degree. Are these nanotubes, nanosensors, and nanoparticles not just in us, but all biological life? And that brings us to that part right there that you can read, because I won't. Because this video is going to get taken down for sure. If you made it this far, please download this video, because I am confident that it's getting taken down. Don't know why I even brought this one up, but I'm already in, so I'm just going with it. It's really quite astonishing to witness just how many ways the situation has advanced the dehumanization of the world. And it talks about the experimental cures. And you guys can read that part right there. I'll stay here. I'm not going to read this. Okay. Now, why would they do that? At this point, it's logical to ask, why the hell would the NWO conspirators do all this when they suffer too? Why would they destroy their own health, give themselves adulterated food, impair their own fertility, and poison their own air? The best answer to this question is given by David Icke and others. And it's simply this: the inner core of the NWO is not fully human. So all the destruction of the world doesn't affect them the same way it affects us. This perspective also lends credence to the theory that, in the course of being made more fake and synthetic, the Earth is being terraformed to make it more frequency matched for whatever force is behind this, and less life-supporting for humanity. Ike explains in the above-linked video by comparing what's happening on Earth to the movie Avatar, where the local blue-skinned Na'vi people were invaded, and the method of invasion was the invading people to inhabit... Wait, where was I at? Sorry, I lost my place. Movie Avatar, local blue-skinned Navi people were invaded, and the method for invasion was for the invading people to inhabit Navi bodies, known as avatars, so as to make friends with and accepted by the locals before using that photo to destroy them. A non-human force, an outer apparently human form, has infiltrated human society, hijacked positions of power and decision-making, and in the endgame of taking over completely human society and turning humans literally into its AI-connected, AI perception-delivered slaves on a scale whereby the word slave is not enough to describe it. I've given some background to understanding this non-human force, and people give them a bunch of names, and people talk about, like, oh, they're from a different planet, this and that. No. We know what they are. They're interdimensional beings. They're demons. Right out of the book. Right out of the scriptures. No other planets needed. None of that mumbo-jumbo from outer space. No. They inhabit the same world as we do on different frequencies. We went over this before. And I'll go over it again, like a car. Like you're listening to your radio, right? And in my area, let's see, the local rock station would be like 107.5. So if I'm on 107.5 gigahertz, I'm only going to get that, that station. But if I tune my car to a different frequency, like let's say 95.7, which is like the local pop station or whatever, still in the same area, still in the same spot actually, but different frequency has different things playing. That's how we discovered radio waves and stuff, because we learned that all frequencies exist in the same plane, but just invisible to each other on different frequencies. And that's how it is. Demons, they all come from different frequencies. That's how God made it. Everything is sound. Everything is sound. God is very complex, and he is the greatest artist. Let's see. Conclusion. Recognize the agenda. Shamans and spiritual leaders from different cultures all over the world throughout the ages have talked about this force in different words and symbolized in different ways. But the same force. It's the same force. The situation has indisputably advanced this anti-human agenda forward at a rapid pace. We have to recognize the elements at play here in the bigger picture. The puppet show level delusions and distractions like left versus right, killer viruses, or purported imminent mass arrest of pedophiles. That's a good one. That is so perfect. Fade into oblivion when one considers the horrendous life-denying dehumanization that the scam has accelerated. The anti-human agenda is the core of the New World Order. What matters most is that we can see it and do everything in our power to defend and uphold our basic humanity. Yes. That is very true. And this is really hilarious right here. The puppet show level delusions and distractions like left versus right. Killer viruses or purported imminent mass arrest of pedophiles. You know what? I'm still hearing people talk about how all these pedophiles are getting arrested, and Ellen DeGeneres canceled her show because she's going to wear an ankle bracelet and going to jail or going on house arrest, and all these other people are getting arrested, and Joe Biden too. Like, I want to say this publicly and loudly. Nobody is getting arrested. Nobody is getting arrested. Why do you think? Here's another one. They always say, oh, they hated Trump so bad, and they wanted to get Trump out of there so bad because he was going against them. If that was the truth, the man would not have been impeached twice and never seen the inside of a jail cell. He was impeached twice for show. That's literally what it was, because nothing happened to him. Nothing happened to him. And people were talking about these Fauci emails. What happened when Hillary's emails came out? What happened when Epstein's emails with Ghislaine Maxwell? What about all those other emails, or even Trump's. Nothing ever happens to these people because it's put there to make you focus on something of no real importance. And people think somehow that Fauci and Bill Gates and Epstein Island or something, and I don't know what they're even talking about, but they're saying that all these people are finally getting arrested, and watch Arizona, and they're going to reinstate Trump, and this and that. None of that is going to happen. None of that is going. That stuff is literally, I've been hearing it since 2015, when QAnon was first announced, when the operation was first introduced. I've been hearing about these mass arrests for a long time. And when it first came out, there was something like, oh, all these mass arrests, these people are getting detained at Guantanamo Bay. And I'm thinking, no, they're not. This was before my dad got deployed to Guantanamo Bay. He did a year down there. And Dad, if you're listening, you can talk about this, even though they're not allowed to talk about much. But when he was down there, I said, oh, how many high-profile people you got down there? Like, you know, people that are getting arrested in the media. None. Oh. That's literally as far as I went with it. And I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit. Psychological operation. Nobody is getting arrested. None of that is going on. Don't believe any of that Q crap garbage that's somehow still going on. Like, people are telling me to watch Arizona. Like, watch it do what? The same thing as every other state? Become part of the New World Order? Oh, they're having all these audits and this and... Okay, maybe they are, but guess what? It's a show. How many people are still focusing on that? How many people are still focusing on the, quote, election interference by the Democrats and this and that? That's the point, for you to still focus on it. So they can get away with, well, this. And Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. So take that with what you will. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.